The soldier who never returned, they still whisper about him in the village of Harrow's End. The soldier who marched off to war, but never truly came back. His name was Corporal Elias Ward, and he left one gray morning in 1916, his boots slick with rain and his mother's rosary wrapped around his wrist. He promised his fiancée, Clara, that he'd be home by Christmas. He never was. For years, people assumed he died somewhere in the mud and smoke of the Western Front. His name was carved on the memorial in the town square among the others, boys turned ghosts. But Clara never stopped waiting. She kept his photograph on her nightstand, and every evening she lit a candle by the window so he might find his way home. And one night he did. It was November 11th, 1921. The war had been over for years, but the night carried a familiar chill, cold, heavy, and wet, as if the trenches had breathed again. Clara was sitting by the fire when she heard the knock. 3 slow raps on the door, spaced too evenly, too precisely, like the beat of a march. She froze. Everyone in Harrow's End knew that no one came calling after dark. But something, some echo of memory, made her rise. She opened the door. Elias stood there, framed in the flickering lamplight. His uniform was muddy, the fabric stiff and dark with age. His face was pale, his eyes glassy and gray. He smiled, but his lips didn't quite move right. It was more like his expression was being pulled into the shape of a smile by invisible strings. "Clara," he said softly. His voice sounded distant, hollow. "I told you I'd come back." She fell to her knees, sobbing. She didn't notice that the air behind him shimmered faintly, as if the night itself were breathing. She didn't notice that his boots left no prints on the wet soil. She only noticed that he was home. The days that followed were strange. Elias stayed mostly indoors, saying little. He slept during the day and walked the house at night, his boots scraping softly against the wooden floors. Sometimes Clara woke to find him standing by the window, staring out toward the woods that bordered the village. When she touched his shoulder, he was cold, so cold her fingers burned. He said the war had been terrible. He said he'd been trapped behind enemy lines. But his stories didn't make sense. He spoke of black rain that whispered to the living and of a field where the dead still marched. He said the commanding officer had told them to keep marching even when their bodies failed. When Clara asked how he had survived, he smiled again, that wrong, stiff smile, and said, "I didn't." The villagers began to notice odd things. Dogs howled when Elias passed by. The air grew sour where he stood. The candle in the church near his name flickered even when the doors were shut. One night, the vicar came to visit. He found Elias sitting in the dark, cleaning his rifle. "Son," the vicar said gently, "you've been through much, but it's time to let go of the past." Elias turned to him. "The past hasn't let go of me." The vicar didn't return home that night. By winter, Clara had changed too. Her once bright eyes had dulled. She stopped going to town. The neighbors saw her only once after that, a pale figure standing beside Elias at the edge of the woods, both staring into the fog as if waiting for something. When spring came, a search party went out. They found the house empty. The fire had long gone out, and the candle by the window had burned itself into a puddle of wax. The only sign of life was a muddy pair of footprints leading from the back door toward the forest, and a second, smaller set beside them. Deeper in the woods, the searchers found a patch of ground that looked recently disturbed, soft, uneven, and marked with boot prints. They dug there, expecting to find the couple. They found dozens of bodies instead. Soldiers, all of them. Their uniforms tattered, their eyes open, their hands clutching rusted rifles. And at the very center, a single empty grave. Years later, travelers passing through Harrow's End sometimes report strange things. A figure in a soldier's uniform standing by the roadside at dusk. The sound of boots marching through the fog when no one is there. And sometimes, if you drive the old forest road late at night, you might see a man and a woman walking hand in hand through the mist. If you slow down, the man might turn toward you. And if you're close enough to see his face, you'll notice the dirt packed beneath his eyes, and the faint rust-colored stain around his collar. He'll raise his hand in salute, and if you're wise, you'll keep driving. because the soldier who never returned never really left.